back to John, your daily sports dump, where we plunge into the sports world. We are a sports pipeline for breaking news, game recaps, and the hottest takes in the sports industry. So while you're taking care of business, let us flush out the details and fill you in on what's happening. So take a seat, get comfortable, and make sure you have plenty of TP. It's time to explode the commode. I'm your host, John, and today we're going to be giving you my NBA Finals / Game 7 reaction. Alright guys, let's jump in. So, Game 7. Great game, but we got to start with the biggest thing that happened. Halliburton tore his Achilles. I firmly believe, and I say this with full and utter confidence, I firmly believe that if Tyrese Halliburton had played that whole game, the Pacers would have won the NBA championship. I totally believe that. In just 7 minutes, Halliburton had 9 points and 3 for 4 from three-point land. So he was the best player on the court, and then he got hurt. Now, the Pacers, when in halftime they were winning by 2, but the thing that really hurt them besides turnovers, they lost the turnover battle 23 to 8. So that was another big thing. I think if Halliburton's in the game, turnovers don't happen. But we cannot take away, I'm saying this, and you guys know I've been critical of SGA. I think he wasn't the MVP. I think that Jokic was the MVP. But SGA has had an amazing season. Yesterday he proved it. 29 points, 12 assists, 5 rebounds, 2 blocks, a steal, and all of that with just 1 turnover. He becomes the first player since 2013 LeBron to win the regular season MVP and the finals MVP in the same season. So SGA has had, I think, arguably a amazing season. I've heard people say it's top 10 season of all time. I don't know if I'm ready to put that there just because I'm such a Nikola Jokic fan, but putting that aside, I do think that it is a top 10 season. I think you can argue it to be a top 10 season for SGA. But do I think that if Tyrese Halliburton was healthy, the game would have been completely different? I don't think that Pacers would have had as many turnovers. I don't think that terrible third quarter would have happened where basically T.J. McConnell scored 12 of their 20 points. It was basically T.J. McConnell the whole third quarter. I think if he's there, you get guys like we saw Benedict Mathurin had a great game last night. T.J. McConnell, you know he's going to give you a great game. So I think if SGA was healthy, you would have saw this Pacers team go to another level. And they said on the broadcast, and I believe it now still, the Pacers were well equipped for this because I think they have the best backup point guard in the NBA, which is T.J. McConnell. He's a playoff riser, and he shows up in the playoffs. But I just think that the Pacers started the game in those first few minutes of the first quarter with Halliburton so hot, I just didn't see them losing. And then obviously, it happened. But Shai, the issue with the Thunder so far this postseason in this whole series was it was either Shai had a game or J-Dub had a game. They kind of never overlapped. I think J-Dub was a big reason why this series went to 7 and why they won the series is because J-Dub played so well. And I don't think that's crazy to say that. I think Jalen Williams became I believe he's the best two-man in the league, best number 2 in the number 2 sort of Robin to the Batman in the league. I think he really is that great. I think he's the reason that the Thunder won this series. And yesterday he had 20 points, and then the one that has gotten the most slander in the NBA Finals was Chet Holmgren, and boy did he show up yesterday. 18 points, 8 rebounds, 5 blocks. So he finally showed up, and the thing about the Thunder is they're so young and talented that once they play well enough together to compete with these teams, they're going to be scary. You want to know what's crazy? Their oldest player on the team is Caruso, and he's 30. So I'm worried for the NBA for the coming years because this was the NBA for 7 years in a row has not had a back-to-back champ. I fear that could be over after this season. I really do see. I think the Thunder could do a three-peat. Now, I know this is early, but just how young and talented they are and how they were able to do this when they're all still so young. They showed a level of maturity in the playoffs. They dealt with adversity, and they were able to fight back and come back out of it. So I really do think the Thunder could win 3 in a row. I think that is a legit possibility. But like I said, in the third quarter, the Thunder outscored Indiana 34-20. So the Pacers were in that whole game basically until that third quarter. That third quarter was very demeaning and sort of depressing for Pacers fans and Pacers players because if you take that quarter out of the game, I think it's a 1-point game. It's a very doable game. But we got to keep on focusing on OKC. Obviously, first championship headed to Oklahoma City, and I mean, they were amazing. OKC capped off a historic season with 84 total wins, tying my 1996-97 Chicago Bulls for third all time. So obviously I wasn't alive, when the Bulls were winning rings and stuff, which is a whole nother topic, but that just shows how dominant they were, because that's during the dominant Bulls era of the 2-3-peats. That was that 90s where they were just dominating everybody. And then another thing is they're the youngest team to win a championship since 1977. So they're an elite company. I mean, this hasn't happened in almost 50 years that somebody this young has won a championship, because it's hard. You need to be adverse. You need to be able to old enough and be able to deal with all the adversity that came with it. And I really do think losing last year early in the playoffs is propelled them to this. I think losing early to the Nuggets is a big reason why the Thunder were able to have success this year in the postseason, because they were able to deal with that. And now they have more maturity. Now, I do think they got a little bit of the light end of the stick, where you play the Grizzlies, who are abysmal. They're awful. Then you play a injured Nuggets team. Then you play Ant-Man, who gets hurt in the Western Conference Finals. Then you play Halliburton on a strained calf. So I don't want to say that they won. I think they would have won all these other series, but I think this Pacers one, if Halliburton doesn't get hurt, I really do think the Pacers would have won the championship. And I was rooting for them. Even though Caruso is a former Bull, I was really rooting for the Pacers to win this one, just because of how the basketball culture in Indiana is. But something that really interests me, I talked about how great Oklahoma City was this whole season, how they were able to win a lot in the postseason. I really want to see how the Pacers come back from this. They've made sort of 2 back-to-back sort of Cinderella, quote-unquote Cinderella runs, but I don't think they're Cinderella. You guys know how I feel about Rick Carlisle. He's a Hall of Fame coach. I don't care that they lost this finals. He brought this team to a finals. They are elite, and I'm really interested to see how they react to this sort of rough loss. I mean, you take to a Game 7, you're in the game basically the whole game minus one quarter. You're a quarter away from winning the NBA Finals. So I'm really interested to see how the Pacers react going into next season. But another thing is how is Halliburton going to come off of this? Is he going to be the same player that he was? That's a brutal injury. And one of my least favorite sports commentators, Kendrick Perkins, said that he suggested Halliburton not to play on the strain cap, because last time someone did that in the finals was 2019 Kevin Durant, and he tore his Achilles. Same thing that Halliburton did. So I'm really interested to see kind of how they rebound. But I do think this was a very well-earned. I'm not saying that the Thunder didn't deserve this. They deserved it. They were the best team in the NBA all year long. But I know I've been reiterating this over and over, I do think Halliburton's in this game, we're talking something completely different. I was talking with my buddies. I think Nembhard or someone, if Halliburton was in that game, that someone would have came up clutch for them, and I think the Pacers would be NBA champions. But that's going to be going down as one of the greatest what-ifs. We've had so many of those. I'm worried that Halliburton is going to start to turn into the Victor Oladipo of the Pacers, where he is so great and so talented, but he gets hurt. Victor Oladipo was one of the best and I think underrated players when he was at his prime in Indiana, and then he sort of went out of the league just because of how injured he got. So I'm really interested to see kind of how Halliburton comes back from this injury, as he was playing at an MVP as a superstar in this league throughout the whole playoffs. So I'm really interested to see how he comes back next year. It's obviously going to be some time, but I'm really interested to see kind of what he does, how he comes back, if he's still going to be that superstar that I believe that he is. Because you guys know I'm one of the biggest Tyrese Halliburton fans of all time. Guys, that's all I have for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in to John, your daily sports zone, where I gave you guys my reaction to the NBA Finals. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram for more hot takes and sports updates in real time. And if you're looking for even more sports talk, check out the Sports Syllabus Show, where my partner and I tackle the hottest topics in college sports and beyond. It's a two-ply discussion, strong, reliable, and always ready to clean up the messiest takes in sports. Join me next time on The John, your daily sports thump, where we'll give you a crap load of sports information. Until then, keep your game face on and stay regular. This is The John, signing off.
Don't nobody go in the bathroom for about 35, 45 minutes. Somebody open the window.